Okay, so hello everyone. Um, Today I am going to attempt to start this story time that I have been wanting to do forever. And I feel like now is just as good a time as any. I'm going to entitle this story time Barbara Lee. Just Barbara Lee. And the reason, one of the main reasons I'm telling this story is because Barbara Lee deserves to have her story told. And I also know that there are so many people who will be able to relate to this story, especially and in particular, if you were born in the 60s, raised in the 70s and 80s. In particular, you are really going to be able to identify with this story. But not only will those people that were born in the 60s, raised in the 70s and 80s be able to identify with it, because y'all really going to be able to identify with it. However, not just baby boomers, also, if you were born even after that time, you're going to be able to identify with this story. It's going to be a little different, but you're going to be able to identify with it. So, and this will be a series, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to be able to, or a playlist, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to be able to get through all of this story in just each 10-minute interval settings. So, which makes it the biggest reason why, I have to tell the story and post the story. So anyway, so it's entitled Barbara Lee. You're going to see in the green screen a picture of Barbara Lee. And you're going to be able to see a picture of Barbara Lee because Barbara Lee and her husband, and you're going to see a picture of them because I want you to I want you to see a picture of them, and you'll just know them. Okay, so without further ado, let me do this disclaimer though. I am definitely going to change some of the names in the story to protect the innocent. I am going to, I already realized as I'm telling this story, I already realized that this is not going to sit well with some people, because some people are not going to want to face the truth about a statement that I'm going to make in Barbara Lee, and I think I better go ahead and make the statement now. So, a lot of us were raised by our grandmothers, and a lot of us think we were raised by our grandmothers because we think we were raised by our grandmothers because of something that our mothers did. Or we think we were raised by our grandmothers because, our mothers had to work. Or we think we were raised by our grandmothers, and in my case, because it was too many of us, and grandmother or people in the family were helping our mothers out. I'm going to say this, and some people it's not going to sit well with them and the reason it's not going to sit well with you is because you love your grandmother like we all do and did. And you can't even imagine your grandmother being involved in anything like this or doing anything like this. So a lot of you, once you begin to identify with this story, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, what? You really think, yeah, she did, or they did. So what I'm saying is, a lot of your mothers that didn't raise you, and your fathers, I know that's a whole nother story with the fathers that didn't raise you or left your mother. Let me tell you something. And then the grandmother, so-called, stepped in and raised you for your, helping your mother out or their child out. In some cases, that's true. But in a whole lot of cases, the grandmothers told your mother that she was going to take y'all. She told them. She didn't say, that your mama didn't go to them, to the grandmother, and say, I need you to help me with little Mamane and little Boosiefoot. Your grandmother told your mother, told her, I'm taking little Mamane and little Boosiefoot. Told her. So, and the reason I'm making this statement is because a whole lot of us are mad at our mothers and are upset with our mothers and are seeing our mothers in a hateful way because you thinking and feeling like your mother left you or rejected you or didn't want you or this, that, and the other. And she allowed the story to be like that because that was her mother. So, and another reason, let me say this part. Another reason I'm telling this story is because it really isn't fair. A lot of us are so mad and so angry and so hateful towards our parents because we think that they made the decision and they didn't want us and they rejected us and this, that, and the other. That's not the case. That's not the case. Back in those days, in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, those grandmothers that y'all love so much and feel so endearing towards, I hate to tell you this, but those grandmothers told your mama and took you from your mother. And she let it ride because that was her mother. She let it ride because she wanted a lot of our parents wanted us. They didn't have the resources maybe, but so they wanted us. And here's another truth. I'm going to go ahead on and say it. Welfare was big back then. You got a certain amount of money. I remember it being like $130 some per child. And Barbara Lee had 7. Barbara Lee had 7. So this is a story about a woman named Barbara Lee who was married at a very young age. Y'all see the picture. And in this picture, she's pregnant with her first child, by the way. She was married at a very young age. She started having children, stair-step children. And a lot, and her children, her girls mainly, were raised by other people. But remember what I said earlier about why the grandmothers raised you, your aunties might have raised you. Remember what I said about that, okay? So without further ado, the next part 2 will be Barbara Lee's story.